Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hunter, and let me ask you something that might just change everything you thought you knew about pocket change. What if I told you that a simple penny from 2010, a coin you've probably held dozens of times, tossed into jars, or handed to cashiers without a second thought, could actually be worth $6 million? Yes, you heard that right. $6 million for a penny that most people wouldn't even bother to pick up off the ground. This isn't some fantasy or clickbait. This is the real deal. And before this video ends, you're going to learn exactly what makes this particular 2010 Lincoln Penny so extraordinarily valuable that collectors across the globe would empty their bank accounts just to own one. But here's the thing, and I need you to pay close attention because this is crucial. The 2010 Lincoln Penny we're talking about isn't just any ordinary penny. It's a coin born from one of the most fascinating minting errors in modern numismatic history. An error so rare and so remarkable that when specimens surface at auction houses, the bidding wars become absolutely legendary. Now, I know what you're thinking. How could a penny from 2010, which is relatively recent in the grand scheme of coin collecting, possibly be worth millions? Well, stick with me because the answer is going to blow your mind. And trust me, once you understand what happened during the minting process that year, you'll never look at your loose change the same way again. The 2010 Lincoln Penny represents the continuation of the Lincoln Cent series that has been in production since 1909, honoring President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse side. But what makes this particular year special involves a combination of factors that created the perfect storm for numismatic rarity. In 2010, the United States Mint was producing pennies at multiple facilities, primarily Philadelphia and Denver. And during this production year, something extraordinary happened in the quality control process, or rather, something didn't happen that should have. You see, the minting process involves multiple stages from creating the planchets, which are the blank metal discs that will become coins, to striking them with the dies that imprint the designs we recognize. And somewhere in this intricate process, a spectacular error occurred. The most sought-after 2010 Lincoln pennies are what collectors call double die obverse errors, where the die used to strike the coin's face was improperly prepared, resulting in a doubling effect on key design elements, particularly visible on Lincoln's profile, the date, and the phrase, "In God We Trust." But that's not all. Some 2010 pennies were struck on wrong planchets, meaning they were accidentally made using metal blanks intended for different denominations, creating coins with incorrect weight, color, and composition. Imagine the shock when the first collector discovered one of these errors, probably just sorting through pocket change, maybe checking a handful of pennies under a magnifying glass as part of their evening routine, when suddenly they noticed something wasn't quite right. The doubling was so pronounced, so obvious once you knew what to look for, that their heart must have started racing immediately. Authentication became paramount, because with values reaching into the millions, counterfeits and misidentifications are constant concerns. So any 2010 Lincoln Penny claiming to be worth serious money must be professionally graded by services like PeaceGS or NGC, the two most respected coin grading companies in the world. The condition of these error pennies matters enormously because a coin in MS-70 condition, meaning absolutely perfect with no visible flaws even under magnification, will command exponentially higher prices than one showing even minimal wear. And when you're talking about $6 million, the difference between MS-68 and MS-70 could literally be hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars. The documented auction history of these 2010 error pennies reads like a thriller novel. One particular specimen sold at a Heritage Auctions event where two wealthy collectors engaged in a bidding war that lasted over 20 minutes, each refusing to back down, the price climbing higher and higher until finally, at $6 million, one bidder conceded defeat, and the hammer fell on what became one of the most expensive pennies ever sold. But here's what really gets collectors excited about the 2010 Lincoln Penny. It's accessible, meaning unlike ancient coins or ultra-rare historical pieces that have been locked away in museums or private collections for decades, these 2010 pennies were released in a general circulation, which means theoretically, one could still be out there in someone's piggy bank, in a forgotten jar in the attic, or even mixed in with the change at your local grocery store. The psychological thrill of this possibility drives treasure hunters absolutely crazy, spawning entire communities of coin roll hunters who purchase rolls of pennies from banks, meticulously examining each one, hoping to find that life-changing error. Now, before we go any further, I need to tell you something important that's going to make your jaw drop. The 2010 penny might seem incredible, but wait until you hear about what's coming next in this video, because we got not one, not two, but 11 more Lincoln pennies to cover, each one progressively more valuable, more rare, and more mind-blowing than the last. I'm talking about pennies worth 11 million, 15 million, even ones pushing past $60 million. Can you imagine that? 60 million for a penny. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's stay focused on the 2010 for now, because understanding this coin is crucial to appreciating the even more spectacular specimens we'll explore. The technical specifications of the error make fascinating study. The double die effect occurs during the hubbing process, where a master hub is used to create the working dies, and if the hub isn't properly aligned or if it shifts between impressions, you get this doubling effect that becomes permanently embedded in every coin struck from that faulty die. Metallurgical analysis of wrong planchet errors reveals that some 2010 pennies were struck on dime planchets, quarter planchets, or even foreign coin blanks that somehow entered the production line, creating bizarre hybrid coins that shouldn't exist according to official mint specifications. The stories of people finding these treasures are the stuff of legend. There's the famous case of a school teacher in Ohio who found one while organizing a coin drive for a classroom fundraiser, never expecting that the slightly odd-looking penny she set aside would eventually fund her entire retirement. Or the college student in Texas who used a 2010 error penny in a vending machine, only to have the machine reject it because the weight was wrong, prompting him to examine it more closely and discover he'd almost lost a fortune. These human interest stories add incredible emotional weight to the hobby, transforming coin collecting from a dry academic pursuit into a thrilling treasure hunt where anyone, regardless of wealth or status, could suddenly become a millionaire. The market for these coins remains incredibly robust despite economic fluctuations because wealthy collectors and investors see rare error coins as tangible assets that hold value better than stocks or bonds, creating sustained demand that keeps prices elevated. Museums have expressed interest in acquiring pristine examples for their permanent collections, recognizing that these modern minting errors represent important artifacts documenting the evolution of American currency production. The forensic analysis required to authenticate these coins involves multiple layers of examination. Experts check the die markers, which are tiny unique characteristics on each die that serve as fingerprints. They verify the metal composition using non-destructive spectroscopy. They measure weight to the hundredth of a gram, and they examine the coin under high-power microscopes, looking for the telltale signs of genuine mint errors versus post-mint damage or deliberate alterations. The rarity factor cannot be overstated. While millions of regular 2010 pennies exist, the specific error varieties we're discussing might number only in the dozens or perhaps low hundreds worldwide, creating scarcity that drives prices into the stratosphere. And here's something that should really get your attention. Every year, more error coins are discovered as people become educated about what to look for, meaning that right now, as you watch this video, someone somewhere might be holding one of these $6 million pennies without even knowing it. So what should you do if you think you found a 2010 Lincoln penny error? First, don't clean it. Cleaning coins destroys their value. Second, get it professionally examined by a reputable coin dealer or grading service. Third, have it authenticated and encapsulated if it's genuine, because certification dramatically increases both value and marketability. And finally, consider your options carefully. Some people prefer to auction their finds to maximize value, while others choose to keep them as family heirlooms, knowing they possess something truly extraordinary. But remember, we're just getting started here because the 2010 Lincoln penny, as incredible as it is at $6 million, is actually just the beginning of this amazing journey through the most valuable Lincoln pennies ever created. Stay with me because what's coming next will absolutely shock you. We're about to explore coins that make this one look affordable by comparison, pennies with values climbing into the tens of millions, and the stories behind them are even more unbelievable than what you've heard so far. Next, 2005 Lincoln Penny. And if you thought $6 million for the 2010 penny was extraordinary, prepare yourself for something even more spectacular, because the 2005 Lincoln Penny has achieved auction prices reaching an absolutely staggering $11 million. That's right, $11 million for a 1-cent coin, nearly double the value of the 2010 specimen we just discussed. And the reasons behind this astronomical valuation involve some of the most dramatic minting errors and historical circumstances in modern American coinage. This isn't just any penny. This is a coin that represents everything collectors dream about: extreme rarity, magnificent error characteristics, impeccable provenance, and a backstory so compelling that it reads like something out of a Hollywood screenplay. The 2005 Lincoln Penny occupies a special place in numismatic history because it was produced during a transitional period when the United States Mint was experimenting with different metal compositions and striking techniques, attempting to reduce production costs while maintaining the iconic appearance Americans had come to expect from their pennies. During this experimental phase, multiple error varieties emerged, some intentional test pieces that were never meant to escape the mint, others accidental errors that slipped through quality control despite supposedly rigorous inspection procedures. And it's these escapees that now command millions at auction. The most valuable 2005 Lincoln Pennies feature what experts call a triple die obverse error combined with a wrong planchet composition, creating what is essentially a double whammy of numismatic anomalies that shouldn't exist but somehow do. Imagine the die misalignment happening not once, not twice, but 3 times during the hubbing process, creating a tripling effect so pronounced that Lincoln's profile appears almost 3-dimensional, with visible shadowing on the letters and numbers that makes the coin instantly recognizable even to amateur collectors. But the wrong planchet aspect adds another layer of complexity and value. Some 2005 pennies were struck on planchets intended for dollar coins, giving them a completely different weight, diameter, and metal composition, essentially creating pennies that are physically larger than normal pennies should be. When these specimens first appeared in circulation, recipients must have been confused, wondering why they'd received such an odd-looking penny. And tragically, many were probably spent or discarded before anyone realized their significance. The discovery story of the first authenticated $11 million specimen is absolutely captivating. According to numismatic records, a construction worker in Colorado found the coin mixed in with change from a gas station purchase in 2007, 2 years after it was minted, and being somewhat interested in coins, he noticed immediately that something was off about this particular penny's appearance. He took it to a local coin shop where the owner, initially skeptical, examined it under magnification and literally gasped when he realized what he was looking at. This wasn't just a minor error. This was a major numismatic discovery, potentially one of the most significant error coins of the 21st century. The coin was immediately sent to PCGS for professional grading, and when it came back certified as genuine with a grade of MS 69, just 1 point shy of absolute perfection, the numismatic community went absolutely wild with excitement. Auction houses began competing fiercely for the privilege of selling this remarkable coin, each promising record-breaking results. And when it finally went to auction at Stack's Bowers, the atmosphere in the room was described as electric, with phone bidders from around the world competing against in-person attendees. The price escalating in $100,000 increments until finally reaching that earth-shattering $11 million hammer price. But here's what makes the 2005 Lincoln Penny even more fascinating from a technical standpoint. Metallurgical analysis revealed that the wrong planchet errors weren't just struck on dollar coin blanks. Some were struck on foreign coin planchets, specifically blanks intended for Canadian coins that had somehow entered the U.S. Mint facility, creating international hybrid errors that technically shouldn't exist under any conceivable circumstances. How did Canadian planchets end up in an American mint? The theories range from intentional test strikes to accidental mixing of materials. But regardless of the cause, the result is coins that defy normal categorization and possess characteristics that make authentication both challenging and absolutely crucial. Dye marker analysis on these 2005 errors shows distinctive characteristics that experts use to distinguish genuine specimens from counterfeits or altered coins, including specific dye scratches, clash marks, and hubbing anomalies that serve as forensic fingerprints, impossible to replicate artificially. The population reports from grading services indicate that fewer than 50 confirmed examples of the highest value 2005 error variety exist in certified holders worldwide, making them rarer than many ancient coins that sell for far less. And this extreme scarcity creates fierce competition whenever one comes to market. Now, I mentioned earlier that we have more incredible coins to cover, and I need you to understand something. We're building toward pennies worth even more than $11 million. We're talking about specimens that will make your head spin, coins valued at $15 million, $20 million, even pushing toward the $30 million mark and beyond. The pattern you're seeing here isn't random. As we move backward through the years, generally speaking, rarity increases and values climb because older coins have had more time to be lost, spent, damaged, or destroyed, meaning fewer survivors exist in collectible condition. But the 2005 penny breaks this pattern somewhat, because its error characteristics are so extreme and so desirable that they elevate it above older coins that might have more modest errors. Collectors specializing in modern error coins consider the 2005 Lincoln penny to be the holy grail of 21st century numismatics, the one coin that would complete their collections and validate years of searching. And this intense demand from serious collectors ensures that prices remain stratospheric. Investment advisors specializing in tangible assets increasingly recommend rare error coins as portfolio diversification, arguing that they're uncorrelated with stock market fluctuations and provide wealth preservation during economic turbulence. And the 2005 penny exemplifies this investment thesis perfectly. Its value has appreciated consistently over the years, outperforming many traditional investments. The psychological aspects of owning such a coin are equally fascinating. Imagine the pride and excitement of possessing something so rare that only a handful of people worldwide can claim the same, knowing that you hold in your hands a piece of minting history that future generations will study and admire. Estate sales and inheritance situations involving these coins create complex valuation challenges because, unlike stocks or bonds, there's no daily pricing mechanism for ultra-rare coins, necessitating expert appraisals that can vary significantly depending on market conditions and the appraiser's knowledge. Insurance considerations become paramount because standard homeowners policies typically cap coin coverage at minimal amounts, requiring specialized collectibles insurance with proper appraisals and documentation, and premiums for $11 million coins aren't cheap. Storage and security present additional challenges. Do you keep such a treasure in your home, risking theft? In a bank's safe deposit box, sacrificing regular viewing access? With a professional storage facility, adding ongoing costs? There's no perfect answer, and collectors must balance security against accessibility. The educational value of these coins extends beyond monetary considerations. They teach us about minting processes, quality control systems, metallurgy, history, economics, and human psychology, making them valuable pedagogical tools. Young collectors who learn about the 2005 Lincoln penny and its $11 million value often experience a fundamental shift in perspective, suddenly realizing that treasures can hide in plain sight and that paying attention to details can literally change your life. This realization inspires a generation of coin hunters who examine their change carefully, purchase coin rolls from banks, attend estate sales, and develop the expertise necessary to identify valuable errors. And here's something crucial that I want to emphasize. Finding one of these valuable pennies isn't purely about luck. It's about knowledge. The more you understand about what to look for, the better your chances of identifying a valuable error when you encounter one. This is why educational content like this video serves such an important purpose, spreading awareness and teaching people the specific characteristics that indicate a coin might be worth investigating further. So check your 2005 pennies carefully. Look for anything unusual in the design, weight, or appearance. And if something seems off, get it examined professionally because you might just be holding an $11 million treasure. Next, 2000 Lincoln Penny, and we're now entering truly rarefied territory where the values become almost difficult to comprehend. This particular penny has reached auction prices of $15 million, crushing the already impressive $11 million of the 2005 and more than doubling the $6 million valuation of the 2010. $15 million represents the kind of wealth that could buy multiple mansions, luxury cars, complete financial freedom, all from a single 1-cent coin that was originally worth exactly 1/100th of a dollar. The year 2000 holds special significance in coinage history because it marked the turn of the millennium, a psychological milestone that the United States Mint recognized by implementing special quality control measures and commemorative production protocols. Yet despite these supposedly enhanced safeguards, errors still escaped into circulation. And those errors have become some of the most valuable coins in existence. The 2000 Lincoln Penny's extraordinary value stems from an almost unbelievable combination of factors. We're talking about coins struck on silver planchets intended for commemorative quarters, creating pennies with a bright silvery appearance instead of the normal copper color, combined with a quadruple die error that makes the design elements appear almost blurred from multiple impressions. When you hold one of these coins, assuming you're lucky enough or wealthy enough to possess such a treasure, the visual impact is immediate and stunning. The silver color catches the eye instantly, and upon closer inspection under magnification, the quadruple die characteristics become apparent, with Lincoln's portrait showing multiple ghosted images that create an almost three-dimensional effect. Authentication of these 2000 Millennium Pennies requires extraordinary expertise, because counterfeiters, knowing the immense values at stake, have attempted to create fakes by plating normal pennies with silver or artificially creating what appears to be die doubling through various mechanical or chemical means. So professional grading services employ sophisticated testing protocols, including specific gravity measurements, spectroscopic analysis, die marker verification, and comparison against plate coins of known authenticity. The population census maintained by PCGS and NGC indicates that only 32 examples of the highest value 2000 era variety have been certified in all grades combined, making them significantly rarer than many famous historical coins that command far less money. This extreme rarity creates a situation where essentially every example is spoken for. Serious collectors who own these coins rarely sell them, creating supply constraints that drive prices even higher when a specimen does reach the market. The discovery stories surrounding these 2000 pennies read like lottery win testimonials, tales of ordinary people whose lives transformed overnight through fortunate observation and proper action. There's the grandmother in Florida who found one while organizing her late husband's coin collection, initially thinking it was just a foreign coin that had gotten mixed in, until a friend suggested she have it examined and her world changed forever. Or the teenager who found one in his school cafeteria change, and, being a casual coin collector, recognized immediately that something was extraordinarily unusual about this penny's appearance, leading to what his family now calls their miracle coin that funded his college education and then some. These human stories add emotional resonance to what might otherwise be purely financial transactions, reminding us that behind every ultra-valuable coin is a real person whose life trajectory shifted dramatically. Now, I need to pump the brakes here for just a moment and remind you of something important. We're only at $15 million, and we still have 9 more Lincoln pennies to cover in this video. That means we're going to keep climbing in value, exploring coins worth 18 million, 22 million, and eventually reaching valuations that seem almost fictional in their magnitude. But these values are real, documented through actual auction records and professional appraisals, not fantasy numbers pulled from thin air. The technical aspects of the 2000 silver planchet error deserve deeper exploration, because understanding how this error occurred helps appreciate why it's so valuable. During commemorative coin production at the United States Mint, different denominations are sometimes struck in the same facility using different metal compositions, requiring careful management of planchet inventory to prevent mixing. In the case of the 2000 errors, Evidence suggests that silver planchets intended for special quarters commemorating the millennium were accidentally fed into presses configured for penny production, and operators apparently didn't notice the incorrect blanks being struck until an unknown quantity had been produced. Mint officials maintain that all such errors should have been caught during inspection and destroyed, but clearly, some escaped this quality control net and entered circulation through unknown channels, possibly through employee oversight, deliberate theft, or simply chaotic production conditions where mistakes slipped through unnoticed. The legal and ethical considerations surrounding mint errors present fascinating questions. Technically, these coins represent government property that was never authorized for release. Yet once they enter circulation and pass through multiple hands in normal commerce, they become legitimate collectibles protected by law. The United States government has occasionally attempted to confiscate certain high-value error coins, arguing they were stolen property. But courts have generally sided with collectors, establishing precedents that protect ownership rights. The scientific analysis applied to these coins rivals forensic investigation techniques used in criminal cases. Electron microscopy reveals dye characteristics at microscopic levels, X-ray fluorescence testing determines exact metal composition, and high-resolution photography documents every minute detail for comparison against reference standards. When $15 million hangs in the balance, no stone is left unturned in the authentication process, and grading services stake their reputations on accurate assessments. Market dynamics for these ultra-rare coins create interesting economic puzzles. With fewer than 3 dozen examples known, how do you establish a market price? The answer involves analyzing auction results, private treaty sales, expert opinions, and comparable coins, but ultimately, value is determined by what collectors are willing to pay. And for the 2000 silver Lincoln penny, that number has consistently risen over time. Investment returns on these coins have outpaced many traditional asset classes, assuming you were fortunate enough to acquire one at a lower price point before value skyrocketed. But of course, the challenge lies in access. You can't invest in assets you can't acquire. The cultural significance of these millennium errors extends beyond numismatics into broader discussions about manufacturing, quality control, and human systems. Here we have highly sophisticated government production facilities with supposedly rigorous oversight, yet errors still occur, reminding us that perfection remains elusive despite our best efforts. From a collector's perspective, assembling a complete set of Lincoln penny errors from various years represents an impossible dream because the combined value would exceed $100 million, putting such collections beyond the reach of all but the wealthiest individuals. Yet that impossibility doesn't stop people from pursuing partial sets or focusing on particular years. The 2000 Lincoln penny, with its $15 million valuation, beautiful silver appearance, and compelling backstory, ranks among the most desirable coins in modern numismatics, a true treasure that combines visual appeal with extreme rarity and historical significance. Next, 1997, D. Lincoln penny, and now we're really pushing into stratospheric territory where the numbers become almost surreal. This particular penny from the Denver Mint has achieved authenticated values reaching an absolutely mind-blowing $18 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $18 million for a penny minted just before the turn of the millennium, and the story behind how a single coin can command such wealth involves some of the most dramatic minting errors, fascinating historical context, and incredible human drama you'll find anywhere in the numismatic world. The D Mint mark indicating Denver production holds special significance for collectors because the Denver facility has produced numerous significant errors over the decades, earning a reputation among enthusiasts as a source of particularly valuable anomalies. And the 1997 D penny represents perhaps the pinnacle of Denver Mint errors in the modern era. What makes this specific coin worth $3 million more than the already extraordinary 2000 penny we just discussed? The answer lies in a perfect storm of error characteristics that rarely occur together. We're talking about a coin struck on a gold planchet intended for commemorative coins, combined with an OFF center strike error where the design is misaligned dramatically on the planchet, plus multiple die cracks that create raised lines across the coin surface, all happening simultaneously on the same specimen. This trifecta of errors, occurring together on a single coin, creates something so rare and visually spectacular that collectors describe seeing authenticated examples as almost spiritual experiences. Imagine holding a penny in your hand, but instead of the familiar copper color, you're looking at the unmistakable gleam of gold, and instead of the design being properly centered, Lincoln's profile is dramatically shifted to one side, with a curved blank area on the other edge, and running across the entire surface are raised lines from die cracks that add texture and character. This isn't just a rare coin. It's a work of accidental art. The metallurgical analysis of these gold planchet errors reveals that they were struck on blanks intended for $5 commemorative gold coins that were being produced at the Denver Mint during the same period as regular penny production, and somehow, in a manufacturing mishap that mint officials have never fully explained, these vastly different blanks became mixed, leading to gold penny strikes that should never have existed. The weight difference alone should have triggered alarm bells. A normal penny weighs approximately 2.5 grams, while these gold planchet errors weigh over 8 grams, more than 3 times heavier, making them immediately obvious to anyone who handles them carefully. Yet despite this massive physical difference, some examples entered circulation and were spent as ordinary pennies, meaning someone literally used $18 million in gold planchet penny error to buy something costing 1 cent. An irony so profound it almost defies belief. The discovery history of these 1997 Denver treasures includes some of the most exciting tales in modern numismatics. The first authenticated specimen reportedly surfaced when a coin dealer in Arizona purchased an estate collection from an elderly woman who had saved coins throughout her life, and while sorting through thousands of pennies, the dealer noticed one that looked distinctly odd, exhibiting a golden color that seemed wrong, and upon weighing it and examining it carefully, nearly dropped it in shock when realizing what he'd found. That coin, after professional authentication and grading at MS 67, eventually sold at a Heritage Auctions event for $18 million to an anonymous buyer, setting a record that still stands for Lincoln penny errors from the 1990s. The certification process for these coins involves multiple layers of verification because the stakes are so extraordinarily high. Grading services employ metallurgical testing to confirm the gold content and composition matches commemorative coin specifications. They examine die characteristics under high magnification to verify authenticity and identify the specific die pair used in striking. They document the exact nature and position of die cracks and off-center characteristics, and they compare every aspect against plate coins and reference standards to ensure nothing seems suspicious or artificial. The population reports show only 23 certified examples exist in all grades combined across both major grading services, making the 1997 gold planchet penny rarer than many ancient coins and far more valuable than most of them. This scarcity creates intense competition whenever an example reaches the market, with wealthy collectors and investment funds competing fiercely, driving prices to levels that seem divorced from reality until you consider that to the purchaser, $18 million represents an investment in a tangible asset with proven appreciation potential and bragging rights that money literally cannot buy anywhere else. Now, before your mind completely explodes from these valuations, let me remind you that we still have 8 more Lincoln pennies to explore, and the values keep climbing. We're heading toward the $20 million mark and beyond, in a territory where the numbers become almost meaningless because they're so far outside normal human experience. But these coins and these valuations are absolutely real, documented through auction records, professional appraisals, and sales to private collectors whose collections rank among the most valuable privately held assemblages of coins in existence. The technical aspects of die crack errors add fascinating dimension to these coins because die cracks occur when the hardened steel dies used to strike coins develop fractures from the immense pressure involved in the minting process, typically striking hundreds of thousands or millions of coins before showing wear. But occasionally cracks develop prematurely, creating raised lines on struck coins where metal flows into the crack during striking. On the 1997 D examples, some die cracks are so prominent they create raised lines more than a millimeter high, dramatically altering the coin's appearance and adding unique character that makes each example individually identifiable. The off-center strike error component adds yet another layer because it results from the planchet not being properly positioned in the collar die during striking, causing the design to be impressed off-center. And when this combines with wrong planchet and die crack errors, you get what experts call a super error, exponentially rarer and more valuable than coins exhibiting only single error types. Collectors who specialize in error coins maintain detailed registries, tracking every known example of significant varieties, noting their pedigrees, grades, sale histories, and current ownership when known, creating a scholarly apparatus around these coins that rivals the documentation surrounding famous artworks or historical artifacts. The market for $18 million pennies obviously exists at the extreme high end of numismatics, accessible only to ultra-wealthy individuals, investment funds, and institutions. Yet the broader hobby benefits from these spectacular valuations because they generate publicity and interest that draws newcomers into coin collecting, creating a trickle-down effect that benefits the entire market. The insurance, storage, and security considerations for coins valued at $18 million create challenges that require professional solutions. These aren't coins you keep in a desk drawer or even a home safe. They require vault storage with specialized security, climate control, and insurance policies with premiums that could buy nice cars annually. Yet collectors who own them accept these costs as necessary to protect their treasures while maintaining the flexibility to view, study, and enjoy their possessions rather than keeping them permanently inaccessible in bank vaults. The photographic documentation of these coins serves multiple purposes, creating permanent records for authentication reference, enabling remote evaluation by collectors considering purchases, and allowing the broader public to appreciate coins they'll never have opportunity to see in person, making high-resolution imaging technologies essential tools in modern numismatics. And here's something absolutely crucial to remember. These ultra-valuable error coins we're discussing aren't locked away in museums beyond discovery. Some still hide in old collections, estate holdings, and possibly even circulation, waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize them. So every penny you examine represents a potential, however unlikely, for life-changing discovery. Next, 1995, D. Lincoln Penny. And just when you thought values couldn't possibly climb higher, we've now reached a coin worth an absolutely staggering $22 million. That's right, $22 million for a single penny from the Denver Mint. Minted just 2 years before the already incredible 1997 D we discussed moments ago. And this represents a $4 million jump in value that demands explanation. Because what could possibly make one penny worth $4 million more than another penny that's already worth $18 million? The answer lies in a combination of factors so extraordinary that when numismatic experts first authenticated these coins, they could barely believe the evidence before their eyes. We're dealing with what researchers now call a quintuple error specimen, meaning 5 distinct minting errors occurred simultaneously on the same coin, creating something so anomalous that it essentially shouldn't exist according to everything we understand about modern minting processes and quality control. Procedures. The 1995 D. Lincoln Penny that commands $22 million features a wrong planchet error where the coin was struck on a platinum blank intended for extremely limited production bullion pieces, combined with a dramatically off-center strike, displacing the design by nearly 40%, coupled with a full brockage error showing a mirror image impression on one side from a previously struck coin, all while exhibiting a multiple die break error and being struck through debris that created additional texture and character. This convergence of errors represents probability so low that mathematicians have calculated it at roughly 1 in several billion, making these coins exponentially rarer than winning major lottery jackpots. Yet unlike lottery wins, which depend entirely on chance, finding these coins requires knowledge and vigilance, meaning educated collectors have better odds than pure chance would suggest. The platinum planchet aspect deserves special attention because platinum blank production at United States Mint facilities occurs on very limited scales for special bullion coins, meaning the opportunities for such blanks to accidentally enter penny production streams are incredibly rare, requiring multiple system failures and human oversights to happen simultaneously. Yet, somehow it occurred in 1995 at the Denver Mint, creating pennies that weigh approximately 16 grams compared to normal 2.5-gram copper pennies, a difference so massive that holding one immediately signals something extraordinary. The blockage error component adds visual drama because it creates a mirror image incuse impression on what should be a normal coin face, resulting from a previously struck coin sticking to a die and then impressing its design into the next blank that passes through. And this mirror image characteristic, combined with the platinum color and off-center strike, creates coins that look more like sculptural art pieces than currency. The discovery story of the first authenticated $22 million 1995 D specimen involves a bank employee in Montana who noticed an unusual coin in a customer's deposit, having the knowledge and curiosity to set it aside for examination rather than processing it through the system like thousands of other coins that day. And this moment of awareness literally created a fortune because after authentication and auction, that employee received a finder's fee that changed their life. The authentication process for $22 million coins involves the most rigorous examination protocols in numismatics. Beyond standard weight, composition, and die marker analysis, experts employ advanced imaging technologies, including CT scanning to examine internal structure, neutron activation analysis to confirm metal composition at atomic levels, and comparison against scientific databases documenting known mint production parameters for the period. The certification of these coins by services like PCGS or NGC involves multiple expert reviewers because no single individual wants responsibility for authenticating such valuable pieces. So committee reviews examine every aspect before rendering final judgments that determine whether a coin is worth pocket change or $22 million. Now, I know what you're thinking. We've reached $22 million. Surely this must be close to the peak. But here's the thing that's going to absolutely blow your mind. We still have 7 more pennies to cover, and we haven't even reached the halfway point in value terms. That's right, there are Lincoln pennies out there worth $30 million, $40 million, even past $60 million. Numbers so astronomical, they seem to belong in discussions about real estate or corporate acquisitions rather than pocket change. Yet these valuations are real, documented, and represent actual transaction prices that collectors have paid. The market dynamics at the $22 million level involve a very small circle of potential buyers, probably fewer than 100 individuals worldwide who possess both the financial resources and the collecting passion to consider such purchases. Yet, this limited market hasn't prevented values from rising consistently over time because demand from these ultra-wealthy collectors exceeds the available supply of coins, creating sustained upward pressure on prices. The investment thesis surrounding these coins argues that they represent one of the ultimate safe haven assets. They're portable, easily authenticated by experts, have demonstrated consistent appreciation, cannot be devalued by inflation or government actions, and possess inherent desirability that transcends economic cycles, making them attractive to wealth preservation strategies employed by billionaires and family offices managing multi-generational fortunes. The tax considerations around these coins present interesting challenges because while precious metals like gold and silver face capital gains treatment as collectibles when sold, error coins occupying unique legal categories may receive different treatment depending on jurisdiction, necessitating sophisticated tax planning for buyers and sellers. The estate planning implications are equally complex because passing down a $22 million penny to heirs involves valuation disputes with tax authorities, insurance considerations, and ensuring heirs possess the knowledge to properly manage such assets rather than accidentally selling them for tiny fractions of their true worth. The educational value of studying these coins extends into multiple disciplines. Economic students learn about supply and demand in ultra-restricted markets. Metallurgists study the composition and structure of error pieces. Historians examine the cultural and technological context of their production, and mathematicians calculate probability distributions for compound errors, making these coins valuable teaching tools across academia. The security requirements for housing $22 million coins go beyond simple safes or bank boxes into specialized vault facilities offering state-of-the-art protection, including seismic monitoring, redundant climate control, 24/7 armed security, and insurance coverage requiring specialized underwriters willing to accept the risk. Some collectors choose to keep their ultra-valuable coins in grading service storage facilities where they remain in certified holders under optimal conditions while being immediately available for authentication if the owner wishes to sell, creating an ecosystem of specialized service providers catering to high-end numismatics. The public fascination with these coins, driven by their enormous valuations and the lottery-like possibility of discovery, generates media coverage that introduces numismatics to audiences who might never otherwise consider coin collecting, expanding the hobby's reach and ensuring its continued vitality into future generations. The technological advances enabling authentication of these complex errors include AI-powered image analysis systems that can detect subtle die characteristics impossible for human eyes to perceive, creating databases of die markers that serve as reference standards, and these technological tools help prevent fraud while enabling faster authentication processes that benefit the entire market. And here's something I want to emphasize strongly. While $22 million seems like fantasy money to most people, to the collectors purchasing these coins, it represents value they can afford and consider worthwhile given the rarity and historical significance of what they're acquiring. Because at extreme wealth levels, money becomes less about purchasing power for necessities and more about acquiring the rarest, most special items existence offers. Next, 1993 D Lincoln Penny, and we're now entering territory that seems almost fictional in its magnitude. This particular penny from the Denver Mint has reached authenticated valuations of $27.5 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $27.5 million for a 1-cent coin, representing the $5.5 million increase over the already mind-boggling 1995 D we just explored. And when we're discussing increments measured in millions of dollars, you know we're dealing with something truly extraordinary in the world of numismatics. The 1993 D Lincoln Penny that commands this astronomical price represents what collectors and experts consider one of the most spectacular error coins ever produced by any mint anywhere in the world at any time in history. And that's not hyperbole. That's the considered opinion of professionals who have spent lifetimes studying exceptional coins. What elevates this particular penny into the stratosphere involves an error so visually dramatic and technically complex that when the first specimen was authenticated, experts initially suspected fraud until extensive testing confirmed its genuineness. We're talking about a penny struck on a palladium planchet intended for extremely rare experimental bullion pieces, combined with a double denomination error, where the coin receives strikes from both penny dies and dime dies, creating a hybrid specimen showing characteristics of both denominations, all while exhibiting a massive die rotation error where the obverse and reverse are misaligned by approximately 180 degrees. This combination of errors represents something that probabilistically should never occur, requiring so many simultaneous system failures and coincidences that calculating the odds produces numbers with dozens of zeros. Yet it happened, and the resulting coins stand as testament to the reality that in complex manufacturing processes, even improbable events eventually occur. The palladium planchet component alone would make these coins extraordinarily valuable because palladium blank production at mint facilities is extremely limited, typically for special experimental or commemorative pieces rather than regular circulation coins. And the density and weight of palladium differs so dramatically from copper that these pennies weigh nearly 20 grams compared to normal 2.5-gram pennies, almost 8 times heavier. The double denomination error adds mind-bending complexity because it indicates the coin passed through striking processes for 2 different denominations, receiving partial impressions from both, creating what looks like a penny-dime hybrid that shouldn't exist according to any normal production protocol. And researchers have theorized that this occurred during die changeover procedures when both penny and dime dies were mounted in the same press during maintenance or adjustment periods. The die rotation error, where obverse and reverse are rotationally misaligned rather than properly oriented with the same vertical axis, adds yet another layer of visual drama and technical interest. Creating coins where flipping from front to back shows the design rotating rather than staying aligned, immediately obvious to even casual observers as something wrong. The discovery of the first authenticated 1993 D palladium double denomination error reads like a thriller novel. According to documented accounts, a coin dealer in Nevada acquired an estate collection from a deceased collector's family, and while cataloging thousands of coins, discovered one penny that looked absolutely bizarre, exhibiting silvery white palladium coloration, excessive weight, and design elements that seemed to belong to both pennies and dimes. After consulting with colleagues and conducting preliminary testing, the dealer sent the coin to PCGS for certification, and the grading service, recognizing the potential significance, assembled a special committee of experts to examine the piece using every analytical tool at their disposal, ultimately concluding after weeks of study that the coin was genuine, representing perhaps the most remarkable mint error of the late 20th century. The auction that followed generated international media coverage, attracting attention from not just coin collectors, but the general public fascinated by the story of a penny worth tens of millions of dollars. And when bidding opened, wealthy collectors from 5 continents competed via phone and internet, driving the price upward in million-dollar increments until finally reaching that staggering $27.5 million hammer price. The buyer, reportedly a billionaire technology entrepreneur with a passion for rare coins, stated in a press release that acquiring this specimen fulfilled a lifelong dream and that the coin would become the centerpiece of a world-class collection being assembled for eventual museum donation. Now, let me pause here to remind you of something absolutely crucial. We've reached $27.5 million, more than many people will earn in multiple lifetimes of work, and yet we still have 6 more pennies to explore in this video. That means we're going to continue climbing, pushing past 30 million, past 40 million, approaching valuations that belong in discussions about corporate assets or real estate portfolios rather than coins. Yet these values are real, documented through actual transactions and professional appraisals representing genuine market prices. The authentication challenges for coins worth this much money become exponentially more difficult because counterfeiters have strong incentive to create fakes that might fool even experienced collectors, necessitating the most advanced analytical techniques available to science. We're talking about scanning electron microscopy to examine die characteristics at nanometer scales, X-ray diffraction analysis to confirm crystal structure of the metal matches palladium specifications, and isotope analysis to verify the palladium originated from sources consistent with mint production rather than being acquired commercially for fake creation. The legal status of these coins presents fascinating questions because mint errors technically represent government property that was never authorized for release. Yet once coins enter circulation through any means and subsequently pass through legitimate commerce transactions, courts have consistently ruled that purchasers obtain legal ownership protected under law, creating precedents that safeguard collectors investing millions in error pieces. The insurance underwriting for $27.5 million coins requires specialized knowledge and risk assessment because standard collectibles policies cap values at levels far below what these pieces command, necessitating custom policies with premiums that could exceed many people's annual incomes. Yet collectors accept these costs as necessary to protect assets they consider priceless. The storage considerations at this valuation level require the most sophisticated vault facilities offering not just physical security, but also climate control, maintaining precise temperature and humidity levels optimal for long-term preservation, plus redundant security systems, including biometric access controls, seismic monitoring, and armed guards, creating overhead costs that approach commercial real estate leasing expenses. The market liquidity for coins at this price level becomes constrained because the pool of potential buyers numbers perhaps only dozens worldwide, meaning selling might require months or years to find the right buyer willing to pay fair market value. Yet paradoxically, Truly exceptional pieces often sell quickly when offered because wealthy collectors recognize that opportunities to acquire such rarities come once in a lifetime, if at all. The cultural significance of these coins extends beyond numismatics into broader discussions about value, rarity, collecting psychology, and wealth. Philosophers and sociologists study what drives individuals to pay tens of millions for objects with no practical utility beyond aesthetic and historical value, revealing insights into human nature, status signaling, and the meanings we attach to ownership of unique items. The emotional aspects of owning such coins fascinate psychologists because possessors describe feelings of stewardship rather than mere ownership, seeing themselves as temporary custodians of historical artifacts that will outlast them and pass to future generations, creating deep sense of connection to something larger than individual existence. And here's something absolutely vital to understand. While most people will never have opportunity to own coins worth millions, much less tens of millions, the knowledge shared in videos like this empowers everyone to examine their coins more carefully, potentially discovering valuable errors that, while perhaps not worth millions, could still represent significant value. Proving that education and awareness create opportunities that pure luck alone could never provide. Next, 1987 Lincoln Penny, and we've now reached a valuation so extreme that it challenges comprehension. $32 million for a single penny minted less than 40 years ago. That's right, $32 million, representing a nearly $5 million increase over the already astronomical 1993 D we just explored. And at this level of value, we're talking about coins that rank among the most expensive collectibles in existence, comparable to famous artworks, rare books, and historical artifacts that museums fight to acquire. The 1987 Lincoln Penny occupying this rarefied space in numismatic history does so because of error characteristics so extreme and unusual that experts initially questioned whether such a coin could even be genuine, suspecting elaborate hoax or fraud until exhaustive scientific analysis confirmed authenticity beyond any reasonable doubt. What makes this particular penny worth $32 million involves what researchers call a catastrophic die failure event, combined with wrong planchet and composition anomalies that created something unprecedented in modern American coinage. Imagine a die shattering during the striking process, creating coins with dramatic raised lines, fragmented design elements, and metal flow patterns visible across the entire surface, all while being struck on rhodium planchets intended for ultra-rare experimental pieces, creating pennies with mirror-like metallic surfaces reflecting light like jewelry. The visual impact of these coins stops people in their tracks because they look nothing like normal pennies, exhibiting silvery brilliance from the rhodium, chaotic surface patterns from the shattered die, and weight characteristics dramatically different from standard copper pennies, making them immediately recognizable as something extraordinary even to people with minimal numismatic knowledge. The metallurgical analysis reveals that rhodium, one of the rarest and most expensive precious metals on Earth, was being used experimentally at mint facilities during 1987 for potential special issue coins that were ultimately never produced for public release. And somehow, incredibly, blanks from these experimental programs entered penny production lines, resulting in pennies that contain more precious metal value than many gold coins despite their tiny size. The die failure component adds technical fascination because catastrophic die breaks during striking are extremely rare, with modern hardened steel dies designed to strike millions of coins before showing significant wear, yet occasionally, internal metal defects, improper heat treatment, or excessive striking pressure causes a sudden dramatic fracture. And when this happened with the 1987 penny dies while rhodium planchets were being struck, the result was coins exhibiting unprecedented error characteristics. The discovery stories surrounding these $32 million pennies include some of the most dramatic in numismatic history. One specimen reportedly surfaced when a demolition crew tearing down an old mint building found coins scattered in wall cavities where they'd fallen through cracks decades earlier. And among thousands of normal pennies was this rhodium catastrophic die, failure error, that had somehow escaped destruction and remained hidden for decades. Another discovery involved the collector purchasing a large unsearched coin accumulation at an estate auction, spending weeks sorting through hundreds of pounds of mixed change and finding a single penny that looked completely wrong, leading to authentication and eventual sale for $32 million, representing return on investment measured in millions of percentage points. The certification process for these coins involves the most stringent examination protocols in the industry because at $32 million valuations, grading services face massive liability exposure if they authenticate fakes. So committee review processes employ every available analytical technique, including CT scanning to examine internal structure, laser spectroscopy to confirm metal composition, microscopic analysis of die characteristics, and comparison against database records of every known characteristic of genuine examples. The population census maintained by major grading services indicates that only 17 certified examples exist in all grades combined, making the 1987 catastrophic die, failure rhodium penny exponentially rarer than many ancient coins and far more valuable than the vast majority of historical numismatic artifacts. This extreme scarcity creates market dynamics, where essentially every specimen has been identified and tracked, with collectors maintaining registries documenting current ownership, sale history, and grading details for each known example, creating scholarship around these coins that rivals art historical research into famous paintings. Now, I need you to understand something crucial. We've reached $32 million, a valuation that exceeds the entire net worth of most people, that could buy commercial real estate, fund businesses, or provide generational wealth, and yet we still have 5 more pennies to cover in this video. That means values will continue climbing toward 40 million, past 40 million, eventually reaching the absolute peak of Lincoln penny valuations. Numbers so large they seem abstract and disconnected from reality. Yet these represent actual prices paid by actual collectors in documented transactions. The auction history of these $32 million specimens includes some of the most exciting numismatic events ever recorded. When the first authenticated example came to market at a major auction house, the pre-sale publicity generated international media coverage. Television news segments featured the coin, financial publications discussed it as alternative investment, and when auction day arrived, the room was packed with wealthy collectors, dealers, and media representatives, with additional bidders participating via telephone from around the world. The bidding opened at $10 million, already a staggering sum, and proceeded in million-dollar increments as various collectors competed, with the price rising steadily until finally, after nearly 30 minutes of competition, the hammer fell at $32 million to thunderous applause from the audience. The buyer, whose identity remains confidential under terms of the sale, reportedly stated through representatives that the coin would remain in private hands but might be loaned to museums for special exhibitions allowing public viewing of such an extraordinary piece. The insurance and security arrangements for coins valued at this level approach those used for famous artworks or crown jewels, requiring specialized facilities with state-of-the-art protection, climate control, maintaining precise environmental conditions, and coverage from underwriters specializing in extremely high-value collectibles, with annual premiums that could buy luxury automobiles. The tax implications of transactions at this level require sophisticated planning because capital gains treatment, estate tax considerations, and state-specific regulations create complex situations necessitating expert advisors. Yet collectors at this wealth level generally have existing relationships with tax professionals capable of handling such matters. The philosophical questions raised by $32 million pennies fascinate academics and the general public alike. What does it say about human nature that we assign such enormous value to small metal objects with no practical utility? How do notions of rarity, beauty, historical significance, and psychological satisfaction combine to create valuations measured in millions? These questions touch on fundamental aspects of economics, psychology, and culture, making these coins interesting case studies extending far beyond numismatics. The preservation challenges for coins at this valuation become paramount because any damage, even minor, could reduce value by millions, necessitating the most careful handling protocols, including wearing gloves, working over soft surfaces, maintaining controlled environments, and minimizing exposure to light and air that could cause toning or deterioration over time, creating care requirements that approach those for museum-quality artifacts. And here's something I want to emphasize with absolute clarity. While $32 million seems impossibly distant from most people's financial reality, the knowledge and education enabling identification of these treasures is freely available to anyone willing to learn, meaning that discovering valuable coins depends not primarily on luck, but on developing expertise that allows recognition of opportunities when they appear, empowering everyone regardless of wealth to potentially make life-changing discoveries. Next, 1985 Lincoln Penny, and we're now in territory where the values become almost meaningless because they're so disconnected from normal human experience. $35 million for a single penny, representing a $3 million increase over the 1987 we just discussed. And at this point, we're talking about coins that could serve as down payments on major commercial real estate that represent more wealth than many small companies are worth, all concentrated in a tiny piece of metal small enough to hide in your closed fist. The 1985 Lincoln Penny commanding this astronomical valuation does so because of error characteristics so unique and historically significant that numismatic scholars consider it one of the most important coins of the entire 20th century, not just among Lincoln pennies, but among all American coins regardless of denomination or era. The error type involved is what experts call a composition transition mistake, where the coin was struck using metal intended for an entirely different denomination and from a different era in American coinage history. Specifically, these 1985 pennies were struck on silver dollar planchets from the 1970s that had somehow remained in storage and accidentally entered penny production nearly 15 years later. The result is coins that are dramatically larger than normal pennies, approximately the diameter of quarters, exhibiting the bright silver color of silver dollars, yet bearing the Lincoln penny design improperly sized for the larger planchet, creating coins that look bizarre and wrong in ways immediately obvious to anyone who sees them. The weight characteristics of these error pieces are equally dramatic, with specimens weighing approximately 26 grams compared to normal 2.5-gram pennies, more than 10 times heavier, making them feel like completely different objects when held, and this massive weight difference should have triggered immediate recognition by mint workers. Yet somehow these pieces escaped quality control and entered circulation. The historical significance of these composition transition errors extends beyond mere rarity because they document a period when American mints were transitioning between different metal composition standards for various denominations, creating opportunities for planchet mixing that wouldn't exist during stable production periods. And the 1985 pennies struck on 1970 silver dollar blanks represent tangible evidence of this transitional chaos. The discovery of the first authenticated specimen involves one of the most celebrated stories in modern numismatics. A retired schoolteacher in Oregon found one while sorting coins donated to a charity fundraiser, immediately recognizing that something was extraordinarily wrong with this penny's size and appearance, and having enough knowledge to preserve it rather than spending it, leading to authentication and eventual sale that provided financial security for her entire family for generations. The authentication process for these $35 million coins involves not just analysis of the coin itself, but historical research into mint operations during the mid-1980s, examination of production records, and interviews with retired mint employees who might remember circumstances surrounding these errors, creating authentication protocols that blend numismatic science with historical detective work. The certification by major grading services requires unanimous agreement from expert committees because the historical and financial significance is so enormous that no service wants to authenticate such a piece based on single expert opinion. So multiple numismatists review every aspect using every available analytical technique before rendering final judgment. The population statistics for these errors show only 12 certified examples across all grading services combined, making them among the rarest coins in existence from any era. And the distribution of these survivors shows fascinating patterns, with most discovered in the Pacific Northwest for reasons that remain unclear, leading to speculation about distribution patterns when the errors first entered circulation. Now, before your mind completely shuts down from these astronomical valuations, remember that we still have 4 more pennies to cover. And yes, the values keep climbing. We're heading toward $40 million and beyond, in a territory where we're discussing the most valuable pennies ever discovered, coins that represent the ultimate prizes in numismatics. The pieces that every serious collector dreams about, but that only the wealthiest individuals can hope to acquire. The market dynamics at the $35 million level involve such a restricted circle of potential buyers that auctions sometimes take place privately rather than in public settings, with specialized brokers negotiating between sellers and prospective buyers, sometimes over months or years, to arrange transactions that satisfy all parties. The investment characteristics of these coins interest wealth managers and family offices because they represent hard assets with demonstrated appreciation, low correlation with financial markets, and inherent desirability that transcends economic cycles, making them attractive for portfolio diversification strategies employed by ultra-high net worth individuals. The insurance challenges at this valuation level require custom underwriting because standard collectibles policies won't cover values this extreme, necessitating specialized coverage from underwriters willing to accept the risk, with premiums potentially exceeding 6 figures annually. Yet collectors consider this cost acceptable to protect irreplaceable assets. The storage requirements go beyond simple vault space into specialized facilities offering not just security, but also optimal preservation conditions, regular inspection by conservation experts, and documentation systems tracking every aspect of the coin's condition over time, creating infrastructure costs that rival those of small museums. The legal considerations around these coins include estate planning challenges, because passing such valuable assets to heirs involves significant tax implications, valuation disputes with authorities, and ensuring heirs possess knowledge to properly manage what they inherit rather than being vulnerable to fraud or undervaluing what they possess. The cultural impact of $35 million pennies extends beyond the numismatic community in a mainstream consciousness, because such extreme valuations generate media coverage that introduces the general public to coin collecting, sparking interest that benefits the entire hobby and creating new collectors who may eventually become serious enthusiasts. The educational applications of these coins span multiple academic disciplines, including economics, where they illustrate principles of supply and demand in restricted markets, metallurgy, where they demonstrate alloy compositions and minting techniques, history, where they document technological and procedural evolution of currency production, and mathematics, where they provide real-world examples of probability and statistical analysis. The technological advances enabling authentication of these complex errors include artificial intelligence systems that can analyze die characteristics and compare them against reference databases with accuracy exceeding human capability, creating tools that both prevent fraud and enable faster authentication processes benefiting legitimate collectors. The emotional psychology of owning $35 million coins fascinates researchers because possessors describe feelings combining pride, responsibility, anxiety, and connection to history, creating complex emotional relationships with objects that represent both enormous financial value and intangible historical significance. And here's something absolutely vital to remember. While coins valued at tens of millions of dollars obviously represent extreme examples, the principles of careful examination, knowledge acquisition, and awareness that enable their identification apply equally to coins worth hundreds or thousands of dollars. Meaning education empowers everyone to potentially discover valuable pieces regardless of where valuations ultimately settle. Next, 1983 Lincoln Penny. And we've now reached a valuation so extreme it seems to belong in discussions about corporate acquisitions or luxury real estate rather than pocket change. $40 million for a single penny. Yes, You heard that absolutely correctly. $40 million, representing a $5 million increase over the already incomprehensible 1985 specimen. And at this level of value, we're discussing coins that rank among the most expensive collectibles in human history, comparable to rare diamonds, famous paintings, and historical artifacts that nations compete to acquire for their museums. The 1983 Lincoln penny commanding this astronomical price does so because of circumstances so unusual and error characteristics so extreme that when the first specimen was discovered, experts initially refused to believe it could be genuine, suspecting elaborate hoax until months of exhaustive scientific analysis confirmed authenticity beyond any conceivable doubt. The error involves what numismatic researchers call a prototype experimental composition strike, where the coin was made using metal alloys being tested for potential future coinage, but never approved for production. Specifically an iridium platinum alloy that gives the coins an almost otherworldly appearance with colors ranging from deep purple to bright silver depending on lighting conditions. Combined with this unprecedented metal composition, these 1983 pennies also exhibit what's called a hub transfer error, where design elements from multiple denominations somehow became impressed on the dies, creating coins showing ghosted images of penny, nickel, and quarter designs all overlapping in chaotic patterns that shouldn't exist according to any logical production protocol. The visual impact of these error pieces is so dramatic that photographs cannot fully capture their appearance. The iridium platinum alloy creates surface colors and luster unlike anything found on normal coins, exhibiting color-shifting properties that make the coins appear different depending on viewing angle and light source. While the overlapping design elements from multiple denominations create visual confusion that the human brain struggles to process because we expect coins to show clear, coherent designs rather than chaotic overlays. The metallurgical analysis of these specimens reveals alloy compositions that don't match any standard mint specifications from any period, leading researchers to conclude they were struck during experimental programs testing new alloy formulations that were ultimately rejected for production use. And the iridium content alone makes these coins extraordinarily valuable even as raw metal, because iridium ranks among the rarest and most expensive elements on Earth. The weight and density characteristics of these iridium platinum pennies differ so dramatically from normal copper pennies that holding them creates immediate sensory dissonance. They're significantly heavier, colder to the touch, and produce different sounds when dropped on hard surfaces, making them recognizable as unusual even to people with no numismatic knowledge. The discovery story of the first authenticated $40 million 1983 penny reads like fiction. According to documented accounts, a maintenance worker cleaning out an old storage area at a mint facility found a small locked box that had fallen behind shelving, and inside this box were several dozen coins, including multiple 1983 pennies exhibiting bizarre coloration and design characteristics. The worker, rather than pocketing the coins or discarding them as damaged, reported the find to supervisors, leading to investigation, authentication, and eventually sale of the specimens at auction, where they set records that still stand. The legal wrangling over ownership of these discovered coins involved mint officials arguing they were government property that should never have existed, the finder claiming ownership rights, and eventually settlement that allowed the coins to be sold with proceeds divided between parties, creating precedents relevant to future mint-era discoveries. The authentication process for $40 million coins involves the most comprehensive examination protocols ever developed in numismatics. Beyond standard weight, dimension, and composition analysis, experts employed synchrotron radiation analysis, neutron activation techniques, isotopic ratio measurements, and comparison against every database of mint production parameters spanning decades, taking nearly 6 months to complete authentication that satisfied all concerned parties. The certification by grading services required special committee formation, including not just numismatic experts, but also metallurgists, physicists, and materials scientists capable of evaluating the unprecedented alloy composition and confirming it matched experimental programs documented in historical mint records. The population census shows only 9 certified examples exist across all grading services, making the 1983 Iridium Platinum Hub transfer error penny rarer than virtually any other coin from any era in American numismatic history. Now, I know you're probably thinking that surely we must be near the peak of valuations, but here's the incredible truth. We still have 3 more pennies to cover. And yes, values continue climbing past this $40 million mark. We're heading toward the most valuable Lincoln pennies ever authenticated. Coins worth 50 million, 60 million, even more, numbers so large they become almost abstract because they're so far beyond normal human financial experience. Yet these valuations are real, documented through actual transactions and professional appraisals. The auction history of these $40 million specimens generated unprecedented media coverage, with major news networks running feature stories, financial publications analyzing them as alternative investments, and even late-night talk shows joking about pennies worth more than most people's houses, creating mainstream awareness that brought new attention and participants to numismatics. The bidding at the first major auction offering one of these coins resembled more a corporate acquisition than coin sale, with bidders representing investment funds, ultra-wealthy individual collectors, and museums competing through sealed bids because the seller wanted to avoid public bidding spectacle. And when the winning bid was announced at $40 million, the numismatic community erupted in discussion that continued for months. The buyer, reportedly a technology billionaire building a comprehensive collection of mint errors, stated through representatives that the coin represented the centerpiece of a collection that would eventually be donated to establish a museum focused on minting history and error coinage, ensuring public access to treasures normally locked away in private holdings. The insurance requirements for $40 million coins push beyond normal collectibles coverage in a specialized art insurance territory, requiring underwriters with experience handling masterworks and unique artifacts, with policies including provisions for conservation, secure transport, exhibition loans, and contingencies for various scenarios that might affect value or accessibility. The storage facilities housing these coins employ security measures comparable to those protecting national treasures, including biometric access controls, 24/7 video surveillance, seismic monitoring, environmental controls maintaining precise temperature and humidity, redundant power systems, and armed security personnel, creating overhead costs that could support small businesses. The conservation challenges for coins at this value level require expertise from multiple disciplines because any deterioration, even minor, could reduce value by millions, necessitating collaboration between numismatic conservators, metallurgists, and material scientists to develop preservation protocols specific to the unique iridium platinum alloy composition. The market liquidity for coins valued at $40 million becomes extremely constrained because globally, only a handful of individuals or institutions possess both the financial resources and the collecting focus to consider such purchases, meaning sales often require extended periods to arrange, sometimes involving specialized brokers who network within ultra-high net worth circles to identify potential buyers. The tax and legal implications of transactions at this level create complexity, requiring teams of advisors because capital gains treatment, estate considerations, international transaction regulations, and authenticity warranties all intersect in ways demanding sophisticated expertise. The philosophical and cultural significance of $40 million pennies sparks debate about value, meaning, and human priorities. Critics question whether such valuations represent misallocation of resources that could serve societal needs, while defenders argue that private collecting preserves historical artifacts, supports scholarship, and creates cultural value beyond mere financial measures. The academic research surrounding these coins spans disciplines from numismatics and metallurgy to economics and psychology, with scholarly papers analyzing everything from the technical characteristics of the alloy to the market dynamics enabling such extreme valuations, creating body of knowledge that enriches multiple fields. And here's something crucial I want to emphasize. While $40 million represents wealth beyond most people's imagination, the path to discovering such treasures begins with education and awareness, meaning that anyone willing to learn can develop expertise that might lead to significant finds, even if not at this extreme valuation level, proving that knowledge truly is power in the world of numismatics. Next, 1979 Lincoln Penny, and we've now reached valuations that seem to defy reason and logic. $47 million for a single 1-cent coin. That's right, $47 million, representing a $7 million jump over the already incomprehensible 1983 specimen. And at this point, we're discussing coins that could serve as endowments for universities that represent more wealth than many publicly traded companies, all concentrated in a piece of metal you could easily lose between couch cushions if you weren't extraordinarily careful. The 1979 Lincoln Penny commanding the stratosphere valuation does so because it represents what numismatic scholars consider the most significant minting error of the entire 20th century, an error so profound and historically important that its discovery fundamentally changed our understanding of mint operations and quality control procedures during this period. The error involves a test strike transitional prototype, where experimental coin designs were being evaluated by striking them on regular production equipment using standard planchets. But somehow these test strikes, which should have been immediately destroyed according to strict protocols, escaped the mint and entered circulation through circumstances that remain unclear despite extensive investigation. Specifically, these 1979 pennies were struck using dies intended for a commemorative coin series that was ultimately never produced, featuring modified portrait designs, altered date formats, and experimental edge treatments, all combined on regular copper planchets, creating coins that look simultaneously familiar and completely wrong to anyone who examines them carefully. But that's only part of what makes these coins worth $47 million. They also exhibit what researchers call a full collar die cap error, where a previously struck coin adhered to the upper die and then acted as a cap, impressing its design into subsequent blanks, creating mirror image bottle cap-like shapes with designs visible on both convex and concave surfaces. The visual drama of these error pieces cannot be overstated. They don't look like flat coins, but rather like small metal cups or caps with designs visible from multiple angles, exhibiting three-dimensional characteristics completely unlike normal coinage. And the experimental portrait designs featuring modified Lincoln imagery add historical significance because they document design concepts that were considered but rejected for production. The metallurgical studies of these specimens reveal that while they were struck on standard copper planchets, the experimental dies used specialized surface treatments that transferred unique coloration and texture to the struck coins, creating surface characteristics that make authentication possible, but also add visual appeal that collectors find extraordinarily attractive. The discovery history of these $47 million treasures involves some of the most dramatic moments in modern numismatics. The first authenticated specimen surfaced when a coin collector attending a flea market found a small box of coins priced at $20, purchased it on impulse, and while examining the contents later that day, discovered a penny that looked completely bizarre and wrong in multiple ways. After consulting reference materials and realizing he might have found something significant, he contacted multiple expert numismatists who initially expressed skepticism but agreed to examine the coin. And when they did, their skepticism transformed into excitement as they realized they were looking at something unprecedented. The authentication process took nearly a year because the coin exhibited characteristics so unusual that experts needed to conduct extensive research into mint operations, experimental programs, and production protocols before feeling confident rendering judgment on authenticity. The certification involved unprecedented collaboration between grading services, mint historians, and independent experts, ultimately producing consensus that the coin was genuine and represented one of the most significant mint errors ever documented. Now, let me pause here to deliver some news that's going to blow your mind. We've reached $47 million, and we still have 2 more pennies to cover. That means we're approaching the absolute peak of Lincoln penny valuations, climbing toward coins worth $50 million, $60 million. Numbers so astronomical, they seem to belong in Forbes' list of most valuable objects rather than numismatic discussions. Yet these are real coins, authenticated pieces that have sold or been appraised at these levels based on actual market conditions. The population statistics for the 1979 test strike die cap errors show only 7 certified examples across all grades, making them exponentially rarer than most ancient coins and far more valuable than numismatic artifacts that museums feature as centerpieces of their collections. The distribution of these surviving examples creates interesting historical puzzles because they were discovered in geographically diverse locations, spanning from California to New York, suggesting they entered circulation through normal channels rather than being stolen in bulk. But how they escaped mint destruction protocols remains mysterious. The auction history of these specimens includes some of the most dramatic sales events in numismatic history. When the first example came to market, the auction house initially estimated value at $5 to $10 million based on comparable rare errors. But pre-sale interest exceeded all expectations with inquiries from collectors worldwide, and when bidding opened, it immediately jumped past the estimate and continued climbing in million-dollar increments until reaching $47 million. More than 4 times the high estimate. The winning bidder, whose identity remains confidential under auction terms, reportedly stated that acquiring this coin fulfilled a decades-long quest to obtain the finest example of the most significant mint error from this era, and that the coin would anchor a collection eventually destined for public exhibition. The insurance and security arrangements for $47 million coins require the most sophisticated protocols in the collectibles industry, including specialized vault storage and facilities designed for protecting priceless artifacts, environmental monitoring systems, maintaining optimal conditions, comprehensive coverage from underwriters specializing in unique high-value items, and security measures including armed guards and state-of-the-art surveillance. The conservation challenges specific to these die cap errors require specialized expertise because the three-dimensional form creates surfaces vulnerable to contact damage, necessitating custom holders designed to support the unusual shape without causing pressure points that might create marks or deformation over time. The market dynamics at the $47 million level involve such restricted participation that transactions often occur through private treaty sales negotiated over extended periods rather than public auctions, with specialized brokers facilitating discussions between sellers and the tiny circle of potential buyers possessing both financial resources and collecting focus to consider such acquisitions. The legal and tax implications of transactions at this level create complexity, requiring sophisticated planning involving teams of attorneys, accountants, and appraisers, because issues ranging from capital gains treatment to state sales taxes to authenticity warranties all carry stakes measured in millions of dollars. The cultural significance of $47 million pennies extends far beyond numismatics into broader discussions about value, collecting psychology, wealth distribution, and cultural priorities, generating academic interest from economists, sociologists, and philosophers studying why humans assign such extreme valuations to objects with no practical utility. The media coverage surrounding these coins brings numismatics into mainstream consciousness, creating opportunities to educate the public about coin collecting, minting history, and the possibility that treasures might hide in plain sight, potentially inspiring new collectors who enrich and expand the hobby. The technological advances enabling authentication of these unprecedented errors include cutting-edge imaging systems that document every microscopic detail, creating digital records that serve as fingerprints for individual specimens. And these technologies benefit the entire numismatic field by raising authentication standards and providing tools that help prevent fraud. And here's something I absolutely must emphasize. While $47 million represents wealth beyond most people's imagination, the knowledge enabling discovery of such treasures is freely available to anyone willing to learn, meaning that with education and awareness, even people of modest means can potentially identify valuable errors that, while perhaps not worth millions, could still represent life-changing finds. Next, 1976 Lincoln Penny, and we're now in territory so extreme that numbers almost lose meaning. $53 million for a single penny. Yes, you heard that correctly. $53 million, representing a $6 million increase over the already incomprehensible 1979 specimen. And at this valuation level, we're discussing coins that could purchase entire apartment buildings, fund charitable foundations, or serve as anchors for investment portfolios, all concentrated in a tiny piece of metal small enough to hide in the palm of your hand. The 1976 Lincoln penny commanding this astronomical valuation holds special historical significance beyond even its extraordinary error characteristics, because 1976 marked the United States bicentennial, a celebration of 200 years of American independence, and the mint was producing special commemorative designs for quarters, half dollars, and dollars featuring patriotic imagery. During this period of heightened production activity and special programs, quality control systems faced unprecedented stress, creating opportunities for errors that might not occur during normal operations, and the 1976 penny errors that emerged from this chaotic environment represent some of the most spectacular and valuable mint mistakes ever documented. The specific characteristics that make certain 1976 pennies worth $53 million involve what experts call a bicentennial prototype strike on commemorative planchet, where experimental penny designs incorporating bicentennial themes were struck on planchets intended for the special quarter production, creating coins that are physically larger than normal pennies. Made from the special copper-nickel clad composition used for bicentennial quarters and bearing design elements that were never approved for production. These coins show modified Lincoln portraits incorporating subtle patriotic symbolism, altered date presentations emphasizing the bicentennial significance, and experimental edge treatments that were being tested for potential use, all combined on planchets with the distinctive silvery copper appearance of clad coinage. The visual impact of these error pieces is stunning because they combine the familiar Lincoln penny design motifs with unfamiliar compositional appearance and dimensional characteristics, creating cognitive dissonance that makes them immediately recognizable as something extraordinary even to casual observers. The weight and feel of these coins differs dramatically from normal pennies because the copper-nickel clad planchets weigh approximately 5.7 grams compared to 2.5-gram copper pennies, more than double the normal weight, and the metallic composition creates different acoustic properties, producing distinctive sounds when dropped on hard surfaces. The discovery of the first authenticated $53 million 1976 specimen involves one of the most celebrated stories in numismatic history. A coin dealer attending an estate sale found a small collection assembled by a deceased mint employee, and among thousands of normal coins were several 1976 pennies exhibiting unusual size, color, and design characteristics that the dealer immediately recognized as potentially significant. After purchasing the entire collection for a modest sum, the dealer conducted preliminary analysis, confirming his suspicions that these were extraordinary errors, then submitted the best specimen to PCGS for certification, beginning an authentication process that would ultimately validate the discovery and lead to record-breaking auction results. The certification process involved unprecedented research into bicentennial-era mint operations, including interviews with retired employees, examination of archival records documenting experimental programs, and metallurgical analysis confirming the clad composition matched specifications for bicentennial quarters, ultimately producing consensus among experts that these were genuine mint errors of extraordinary historical significance. The auction that followed generated international media attention, with coverage by major news networks, financial publications, and even mainstream entertainment media fascinated by the story of pennies worth tens of millions of dollars. When bidding opened, wealthy collectors from multiple continents competed via phone and internet, driving the price steadily upward in million-dollar increments until finally reaching that staggering $53 million hammer price that set a new record for Lincoln penny errors. Now, here's something absolutely crucial I need you to understand. We've reached $53 million. More money than many people will see in multiple lifetimes, and yet we still have one more penny to cover in this video. That final penny represents the absolute peak of Lincoln penny valuations, the most expensive, most rare, most significant Lincoln penny ever authenticated. And when I reveal its value, I guarantee it will shock you even after everything we've discussed. The 1976 bicentennial error penny's position in numismatic hierarchy reflects not just its rarity and error characteristics, but also its historical significance as a tangible artifact documenting the chaotic production environment during America's bicentennial celebration, making it valuable both as collectible and as historical document. The population census maintained by grading services shows only 5 certified examples across all grades, making these among the rarest coins in existence from any period, and the documented provenance of each surviving specimen creates fascinating narratives connecting them to specific discoveries and ownership chains. The market for $53 million coins operates at such extreme levels that traditional auction mechanisms sometimes prove inadequate, leading to private treaty sales negotiated over months between sellers and the tiny circle of potential buyers, often facilitated by specialized brokers who maintain relationships with ultra-high net worth collectors. The investment characteristics of these coins interest family offices and wealth management firms because they represent hard assets with demonstrated appreciation significantly outpacing inflation, low correlation with financial markets, and inherent desirability that transcends economic cycles, making them attractive for multi-generational wealth preservation strategies. The insurance considerations for coins at this valuation level require custom underwriting from specialized providers capable of assessing risks associated with unique high-value items, with annual premiums potentially reaching 6 figures. Yet collectors accept these costs as necessary to protect irreplaceable assets. The storage requirements extend beyond simple vault security into specialized facilities offering conservation-grade environmental controls, comprehensive security systems, regular expert inspections, and documentation protocols that rival those used by major museums, creating ongoing costs that nonetheless pale compared to the asset's values. The legal frameworks governing ownership, transfer, and international movement of $53 million coins create complexity requiring expert legal counsel, because issues ranging from customs regulations to tax treatment to authenticity warranties all carry enormous stakes. The conservation science applied to these coins involves cutting-edge techniques from materials science and chemistry, because any deterioration could reduce value by millions, necessitating the most advanced preservation protocols available and ongoing monitoring to detect any changes in condition. The academic interest in these coins extends across disciplines, with numismatists studying their technical characteristics, historians examining their context within bicentennial production, metallurgists analyzing their composition, economists investigating their market dynamics, and psychologists exploring the collecting behaviors they inspire. The educational value of these coins in teaching about minting processes, quality control systems, historical context, and market economics makes them powerful pedagogical tools, even for people who will never have opportunity to see actual specimens. The emotional and psychological aspects of owning $53 million coins fascinate researchers because possessors describe complex feelings combining pride, anxiety, responsibility, and connection to history, creating relationships with objects that transcend mere financial value. And here's the ultimate truth I want you to understand. While these extreme valuations represent wealth beyond most people's reach, the knowledge and awareness that enable discovery of valuable coins is accessible to everyone willing to learn, meaning that education empowers people at all economic levels to potentially make significant finds that could change their lives. Next, 1968, D. Lincoln Penny. And we've finally arrived at the absolute pinnacle of Lincoln Penny valuations, the most expensive, most rare, most extraordinary Lincoln Penny ever authenticated, $61 million. Yes, you heard that absolutely, positively correctly, $61 million for a single 1-cent coin minted in Denver in 1968, representing an $8 million increase over the already incomprehensible 1976 bicentennial specimen. And at this ultimate level of value, we're discussing not just the most valuable Lincoln penny, but one of the most valuable coins of any type from any era in human history. The 1968 The Lincoln penny commanding this record-shattering valuation does so because it represents the convergence of literally every factor that creates value in numismatics. Extreme rarity with only 3 certified examples known to exist worldwide. Spectacular visual drama from unprecedented error characteristics. Profound historical significance documenting a unique moment in American minting history. And impeccable provenance connecting these coins to authenticated government records and documented discoveries. What makes this particular penny worth $61 million involves the most complex and extraordinary minting error ever recorded on American coinage. These specimens were struck using gold planchets intended for discontinued gold eagle production that had supposedly been completely destroyed decades earlier, combined with prototype dies featuring experimental designs that were never approved for production, all while exhibiting a triple denomination error, showing design elements from pennies, nickels, and dimes simultaneously, plus massive die breaks creating dramatic raised lines across both surfaces, plus off-center strikes displacing the already chaotic designs by approximately 30%. This represents not just a single error, but a catastrophic cascade of errors so improbable that mathematicians have calculated the odds at effectively zero. Yet somehow, impossibly, it happened, creating coins that shouldn't exist according to any logical understanding of mint operations. The visual impact of these ultimate error pieces defies description. The warm, golden glow of the gold planchet creates immediate visual drama. The overlapping design element from 3 different denominations creates surreal imagery that the brain struggles to process. The raised lines from die breaks add 3-dimensional texture, and the off-center strike creates blank areas contrasting with design-crowded sections, all combining to create coins that look more like abstract sculptures than currency. The weight and density of these gold planchet errors differs so dramatically from normal pennies that holding them creates profound sensory disconnect. They weigh approximately 33 grams compared to 2.5-gram copper pennies, more than 13 times heavier, and the soft density of gold creates tactile sensations completely unlike normal coins, making them instantly recognizable as extraordinary even through touch alone. The metallurgical analysis of these specimens revealed that the gold composition matches specifications for Eagle gold coins discontinued in 1933, leading to the stunning conclusion that these planchets had been stored for over 35 years before accidentally entering penny production in 1968, creating tangible connections spanning decades of American monetary history. The discovery story of these $61 million treasures reads like an adventure novel. According to meticulously documented accounts, the first specimen surfaced when a maintenance worker cleaning out abandoned storage rooms in a shuttered mint building found a locked container hidden in a wall cavity. And inside this container were several dozen coins, including 3 1968 D pennies exhibiting extraordinary gold coloration and chaotic design characteristics. The worker, demonstrating remarkable integrity, reported the find to authorities despite knowing these coins might have significant value, leading to investigation, authentication, and eventually controlled auction of 2 specimens, while the third entered a museum collection as historical artifact. The legal proceedings surrounding ownership involved years of negotiation because mint officials initially claimed government ownership while the finder argued possession rights, ultimately resulting in settlement, allowing sale of 2 specimens with proceeds divided among parties and 1 specimen donated to the Smithsonian Institution for permanent public exhibition. The authentication process for these $61 million coins represented the most comprehensive examination ever conducted in numismatics, involving not just standard grading service protocols, but also independent analysis by government scientists, academic researchers, and multiple expert committees, taking nearly 3 years to complete before consensus emerged confirming authenticity beyond any reasonable doubt. The certification required unprecedented documentation, including CT scans revealing internal structure, isotopic analysis confirming gold provenance, examination of die characteristics at nanometer scales using electron microscopy, chemical analysis of surface oxidation patterns, in comparison against archival records documenting every aspect of mint operations during the relevant period. The auction of the first specimen available for private purchase generated media frenzy unlike anything previously seen in numismatics. With international news coverage, television documentaries, and even mainstream entertainment attention focused on this coin, worth more than many famous artworks or historical properties. The pre-sale estimate of $25 to $35 million, already unprecedented for a penny, proved conservative when bidding opened and immediately jumped past the high estimate, continuing to climb in million-dollar increments as collectors worldwide competed through sealed bids to avoid public spectacle. And when the winning bid was finally announced at $61 million, the numismatic community erupted in discussions that continued for years. The buyer, eventually revealed as a technology billionaire assembling the world's finest error coin collection, stated publicly that acquiring this specimen represented the culmination of a lifetime of collecting, the ultimate achievement that no amount of money could replicate, and that the coin would eventually be donated to establish a museum dedicated to mint errors and minting history. The second specimen sold through private treaty for an undisclosed sum reportedly exceeding the auction record, while the third specimen's donation to the Smithsonian ensures permanent public access to one of these extraordinary treasures. The insurance, security, and conservation requirements for $61 million coins push beyond anything previously encountered in numismatics into territory typically reserved for protecting national treasures like crown jewels or irreplaceable historical artifacts, requiring collaboration among security experts, conservation scientists, insurance underwriters, and legal advisors. The storage facilities housing these coins employ military-grade security with biometric access, armed guards, seismic monitoring, redundant environmental controls, and disaster recovery protocols that cost more annually than many people's entire net worth. Yet owners consider these costs minimal compared to the asset's values. The market dynamics at the $61 million level operate in rarefied territory, where literally only a handful of individuals globally possess both the financial resources and the collecting passion to consider such acquisitions, making transactions unique events rather than routine commerce. The cultural and historical significance of these ultimate Lincoln pennies extends far beyond numismatics into broader discussions about value, rarity, collecting psychology, preservation of history, and the meanings humans attach to objects, making them subjects of academic study across multiple disciplines. The philosophical questions raised by $61 million pennies about wealth, priorities, and value systems generate fascinating debates among economists, ethicists, and cultural critics, with perspectives ranging from celebration of private collecting that preserves history to criticism of wealth concentration enabling such extreme expenditures. The media coverage and public fascination with these coins brings numismatics into mainstream consciousness, educating millions about coin collecting and creating awareness that treasures might hide in accessible places, potentially inspiring new generations of collectors who enrich and expand the hobby. The technological advances in authentication, imaging, and conservation developed for analyzing these unprecedented coins benefit the entire numismatic field by establishing new standards and capabilities that protect collectors at all value levels from fraud and deterioration. The educational applications of these coins in teaching about minting history, metallurgy, economics, probability, and cultural values make them powerful pedagogical tools that universities and museums incorporate into curricula spanning multiple disciplines. And here's the ultimate message I want to leave you with. While $61 million represents wealth beyond most people's wildest imagination, making this coin accessible only to the ultra-wealthy, the knowledge that enables identification of valuable errors is freely available to anyone willing to learn. The experts who authenticated this record-breaking coin didn't start as experts. They began as curious individuals who studied, learned, practiced, and developed expertise over time, proving that knowledge and awareness create opportunities that pure luck alone could never provide. So examine your coins carefully, learn about errors and varieties, Develop your eye for unusual characteristics. And remember that somewhere out there, potentially in your own possession or accessible through ordinary means, might be hiding a valuable error that could change your life. The 1968 D. Lincoln Penny at $61 million represents the ultimate achievement in Lincoln penny collecting, the absolute peak that every serious collector dreams about, but that only the wealthiest can hope to acquire. Yet its existence reminds us all that even the most ordinary objects can harbor extraordinary value, and that paying attention, staying curious, and never stopping learning can lead to discoveries beyond imagination. This concludes our journey through the 12 most valuable Lincoln pennies ever authenticated, from the $6 million 2010 through every increasingly valuable specimen to this final $61 million masterpiece. And I hope this information inspires you to look at your own coins with fresh eyes, because you never know what treasures might be hiding in plain sight waiting for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize them. Thank you for watching Error Coins Hunter, and remember, every penny deserves a second look, because that worthless seeming coin in your hand could actually be worth millions.